Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss Suella Braverman's at first sight bizarre statement that the two-child limit on benefits should be lifted. But how many people have peered behind this seemingly compassionate statement to the delivery plan? Because what she's really doing here is arguing for a squeeze on pensions. So the two-child limit's an awkward policy. Experts say that the single most efficient way to deal with child poverty is removing this cap. Last year, I think it was, Labour moved from a position of wanting it removed to keeping it in place. It's a pity, though I will point out that Labour do have a commitment to lift children out of poverty. As I always say, you know, we could focus on the outcomes or the methods. As long as there's a method to achieve the outcome they state, if Labour can lift children out of poverty some other way, does it really matter how? That being said, you might reasonably ask, well, okay, fine, but why would Labour not just remove the cap as part of this policy to tackle child poverty, given that experts say it is the most efficient way to do so? Good question. The reason is likely because a clear majority of the population think the cap should stay. Almost 3 times as many people are in favour as opposed, and this is particularly pronounced amongst the voters that Labour needed to win over in order to win the election, which makes it all the more remarkable that Braverman would not just speak out in favour of removing the cap. Very few Conservative voters are in favour of doing so. Anti-poverty campaigners have, of course, jumped on the statement because it's a good way to try and reignite the debate. You know, because, I mean, the bottom line, the easiest way to remove the cap is to get the public on board with it. If someone as obviously heartless as Suella Braverman thinks we should scrap it, well, why not have a discussion? Why won't Labour change their minds? How bad does this make Labour look? The thing is, though, it's worth bearing in mind that Labour are going to reform the entire universal credit system anyway. So it may well be that they end up removing the cap as part of those reforms. Not that I'm suggesting we should assume this is going to take place unless and until they say what their intentions are exactly, which I suspect will not be until after the election, then we can't know. But if there's no such thing as universal credit in a few years, then the cap hasn't technically been removed, has it? But the devil, as always, is in the detail. So going back to Braverman, she's not simply arguing that we remove the cap and then that's it. Oh yeah, let's just remove the cap and everything else stays the same. She also said how she intends to pay for it. And she has 2 methods. The first, she says, is to get more people back into work. But as Rishi Sunak has shown recently, if it weren't obvious over the last 14 years, when Conservatives say get more people back into work or make work pay, what they actually mean is squeeze people's benefits and kick some people off benefits altogether. It's a philosophy which works on the notion that people unable to work are essentially malingerers, and if you squeeze them hard enough, then the lazy beggars will soon find a job. It's how they justify randomly sanctioning people, a policy that Labour have said they will end in government, of course. But this is not the end of it. Braverman has also said that pensioners should be means tested. So Braverman's plan is to take money out of the pot in 2 places and give it back in another. Would not surprise me to learn that the overall impact would be a net reduction in welfare payments. You know, in other words, taking a tenner off pensioners and another tenner off people out of work and giving a fiver to children in poverty. The UK state pension is already the lowest in Northwest Europe, I think it is, isn't it? And it's even when you look at the whole of Europe, it's middling. For one of the very richest countries in Europe, our state pension is roughly middling across the whole of Europe. And Braverman is suggesting that some pensioners in the UK should not get it at all, or only get some of it according to other income. A bizarre thing for any serious politician to say, let alone a Conservative politician. What Braverman is effectively saying here is we should take money away from some pensioners who vote in large numbers and upon whom the Conservatives in particular are dependent, in order to support a policy which is unpopular with the majority of the public, deeply unpopular amongst Conservative voters. It is inconceivable that if Braverman were the Prime Minister, she would ever implement such a policy. In fact, even as leader of her party, she'd surely never get away with putting this in the manifesto. I mean, imagine the policy meeting. Right, I've got this great idea to take money away from the sort of people who are responsible for a huge chunk of our votes and give it to the sort of people who almost never vote for us. In making her statement, she suggested it would eradicate child poverty and, she said, make Frank Field proud. Now, first, I mean, it wouldn't eradicate child poverty, but it would help a lot. Second, Frank Field was a Labour MP. He died last month. Why on earth would someone like Braverman want to have made him proud? So given that she would never actually stick such a policy in a manifesto, much less implement it if she were able, why would she be making such a statement? I mean, that's the million-dollar question. Perhaps she feels she's been ignored of late. You know, she thought, okay, when she was sacked, she could go to the backbenchers, rabble-rouse, build up a power base so she could become the leader later. Maybe she feels a bit sidelined now. People are now starting to look at, you know, Robert Jenrick a bit more. Kemi Badenoch's still a front runner there. Priti Patel's sort of quietly building up support. You know, maybe Suella Braverman feels she's getting behind now. That now that she's no longer in the cabinet, actually, she is no longer as relevant. Maybe she wants to remind people she's still about. Or maybe she feels typecast with her views on immigration and realises that to be taken seriously as a future leadership candidate, she's going to have to discuss other policies as well. And public spending is a big one for any political party. Or maybe she thinks she has a cunning plan to actually remove the state pension by stealth. Dangle the carrot of helping address child poverty. But who suggests you tackle child poverty by creating pensioner poverty? Whatever she thinks she's doing with this statement, it is not trying to fix a problem. Other than maybe the problem of her own increasing irrelevance, as I say. But what she's definitely not doing is trying to eradicate child poverty. Ask Braverman to deal with child hunger, for example, and her first idea would be to feed half the children to the other half. It would not be an expansion of state support. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe for further content and click the like button. You can also sign up for memberships if you'd like to support the channel further. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.